Okay, this video here, I got a clip of yesterday, Trump talking about the COVID-19 meeting that he had with the experts. He mentions about, and I just want to catch near the end here where he talks about the expected rates of what could have happened had we done nothing. He speaks about millions and millions of people could have died, and considers the rates of what we're seeing right now in our country by the actions we've taken as being much better. I just want to play this clip and take a quick listen to what he's saying. And
in some of the hospitals, where one of them I knew growing up in Queens, and I'm looking at the bodies laying in hallways, being brought into refrigerated trucks, these massive trucks, bodies going in. Multiply that times 10. It's not sustainable. And many of the people that have this theory, let's, maybe we could have just gone right through it. I was somebody that would have loved to have done that, but it wouldn't have been sustainable. You can't lose 1 million people. That's almost double what we lost in the Civil War. I use that as a guide. Civil War, 600,000 people died. So it's not sustainable. But it could have been much more than 1 million people. I mean, if you took a number and cut it in half and half and in half again, you'd end up at 500,000 people. Okay, if you want to make a very conservative guesstimate, 500,000 people is not acceptable. Is that a correct sort of an analogy? So, I mean, I see it all the time by friends of mine, by people that I have great respect for. Well, we could have done this, we could have done. And remember this. When we say 50, and they compare 50 to the 35 of the flu, because it averaged 36,000 over a 10-year period, it's a lot. Who would think that? But we're not talking about, with the flu, it just goes. We're not locking ourselves in our units, we're not locking ourselves in our apartments and not moving and not touching anybody and just saying, the world. In this case, we are. And we're still going to lose between 50 and 60. But if we just kept it going on a normal basis, which is really the only standard that you can compare it to with the flu, because that was a normal basis. You get into an airplane, you travel to Florida, you go to Texas, you go wherever you're going. But in this case, if we didn't do anything, the number wouldn't be 50 to 60,000. The number would be 1 million people dead. It would be 1.5 million, 1.2 million, maybe 700,000. It would have been a number in like that because and it's so important because I see so much. They can.
okay, I'm going to pause it right there. And the reason I'm playing this is because the president sometimes says things, and I'm going to use one of his own sayings on him. I got to say, Mr. President, what the hell are you thinking? Really, what the hell are you thinking? You're saying that millions of people could have died. You're saying about how we have, by our actions, we have done so much, and that we have gotten a nip on the butt on this thing, and we're doing better than any other nation, and this is just not true. It's just not true. When we look at other nations right now, like here, I can show you. This is the map of the world with COVID-19, spreading around the world. You can see here. When we look at the areas below here where it has like the United States, we're looking at right now confirmed 840,000 cases. We're looking at 76,864 cases recovered, 46,996 deaths. Now, the problem I have with that is I don't believe that. I just don't believe it, because the reason being, when we go over here and we look at like China. Okay, we look at China, and China is where it originated, and China has 84,287 confirmed cases. They have 77,000, almost near 100% recovery, and 4,642 deaths. Okay, but mind you now, when we look at world populations, China has 1,394,000,000 people. Okay, we here in the United States have 332 million people. So what I'm trying to say is that statistically, by the numbers, it's impossible for the United States to have the numbers that we're showing right now as far as cases and deaths. It's just not, especially being that too, it's not even considered over a full population of our nation. This is being confined within certain states of California, on the West Coast, and Washington State, and New York and New Jersey on the East Coast, and parts, scattered the rest of it. But the majority in just those 3 states, which don't even make up, but about a third of the population of the entire nation. So, I mean, statistically, I got to ask you, what the hell are you thinking? Are you looking at these numbers? And do you realize, if you look at these numbers and you realize how out of sync they are to the rest of the world? I mean, because we're talking about, like, if you look even at India right here has 652 deaths. They're within the region of where this virus started, okay, out of China. They have 652 confirmed deaths. They have 3,960 people recovered, 20,471 cases confirmed. Okay, I mean, you can go into Thailand, you can go into Vietnam, you can go into Japan, Singapore, all these other nations in the region of China, around where it happened. It's just impossible that these nations of way greater population than ours, okay, and the origin of where it originated, have so low of numbers, but yet we are now surpassing almost everybody in the world for cases. But yet you're saying that we're doing so good, and I believe we are doing good. I really do. I just think that we have states and we have medical directors in places lying, reporting cases. Anybody who comes in with a cough, I think, is being labeled COVID-19. Anybody who dies, I don't care what it's from, they died from COVID-19. I look at some of the things, like they had the governor case out of, I think it was Ohio, spoken about a little girl who died, and she said it was COVID-19. When in truth, when you read the story, they're saying she had COVID-19, but she literally died from a rare brain condition, and they decided to pull the plug because she was totally brain dead from this rare brain condition. I mean, it's ridiculous and disgustingly gross what the states, the people are doing in the hospitals. Not so much the workers, frontline people, but the administrators behind the scenes, the people at the doctors who are confirming that and stating that this is COVID-19. Every case is COVID-19. All these deaths, they're statistically impossible. And I'm okay. You can say to me, it's okay to question me, but if you look here. It's not just me. There's experts out there, like this man here. This guy here is Rashad A. Batardo. He's an expert within disease in this field, very world-renowned and known. And he agrees, I think, a lot with what I'm saying, how the numbers are exaggerated. We can listen for a brief moment real quick to what he's saying here. I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
And how the numbers never supported their claims.
Well, Gary, basically, I have patients from all over the world, and patients were concerned about this, and they asked, and I put out in social media that, look, if you really want to know, I'll make a video about this. And I expected some people to respond. I had, 700-800 responses. Just yes, please get us the information. So I asked the question, because you're hearing stuff about conspiracy. So those videos that we put out were actually asking the question, COVID-19 conspiracy ? And as I started looking at it, I mean, to me, it just didn't make any sense anyway. We deal with the hardest to deal with medical conditions anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. I just remember that when I heard about the coronavirus aspect, there was one particular component that we used intravenously a lot in our clinic, and I just made sure we had 10 times the normal amount, and that was it. It wasn't a big deal. It didn't bother me. However, as I started looking at this information, and as I started seeing that this is actually a chimeric version, something that was developed here in the United States in 2015, it was published in Nature magazine, that it was developed in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where all the initial studies were done. The chimeric research, despite having a moratorium by the U.S. government to prevent any chimeric research, by the way, just so your audience understands, chimeric research basically means that they're taking a naturally occurring substance or virus, in this case, and then mutating it, genetically modifying it, changing the configuration morphologically to gain function. It's called a gain of function study or gain of function research. And that basically means that they're making something that already may have some potential to cause harm, making it more harmful, making it more virulent, making it more resistant. And basically that's what I found, that they took the SHC014 strain of the coronavirus, the surface antigen component, and brought in the backbone from the SARS coronavirus, put them together, and then inserted HIV and MERS orthologs on top of it to make a more virulent, more detrimental virus. Now, the thing is that
if I could jump in for just a moment here, because what I think you're talking about is the moratorium that was placed, and then $3.7 million from the National Institute of Health was transferred to China so they could continue this research, even though the moratorium. So they basically outsourced this research to China. Is this the same topic we're talking about here? This news is just breaking?
Yes, this is exactly right. So it goes back to 2014. The U.S. government decided, based upon certain virologists at that time, saying that, look, there's no justification for this kind of research. There's a potential for it to cause harm, cause a pandemic, so there's no justification for us to do this type of research. So the government passed a moratorium in 2014. Fauci approved budgets to be, monies to be sectioned for this type of research. So basically, and I'm getting really, every time I think about this, it gets me really flustered because I'm so angry that he basically broke the law. He more than broke the law. He created this entire cascade that we're seeing with the world shutdown was created by this initial aspect back in 2015. He broke the law. He went against government moratoriums. He took taxpayer money and he funded research that has now led to the Covid-19. In 2017, he was documented at Georgetown University saying that there will be a pandemic that this presidency will face, that this term will face. How did he know that in 2017 that something was going to happen in 2018, 19, or 2020? There's no, you can't predict the market from 3 days from today, what's going to happen. How did he know that there was going to be a pandemic? He stated the president of this president will face a pandemic. The exact quotes, I don't want to say that.
Okay, and what this guy is saying is true. The guy, we all know he's up there with Trump. He's the expert. That's obviously when we see Trump in the video I showed about with Trump, right here, looking back, when he's looking back at the people who is that guy Fauci on the side, as the experts he's consulting with. Mr. Trump, you need to go and check with maybe outside sources, the experts. It sees you're tied in with these guys and you're only taking the information that they're feeding you. And there's a lot of information coming about from other experts out there, like the one I just showed, that I feel is very trustworthy, has a lot of knowledge about this, has obtained a lot of information relating to this, and I think it's some things you need to look into. Because I feel the people around you, because like he mentions, Fauci, the guy who you're taking as your expert advice, and other people associated with him who are giving you advice, guidance, and giving you these outrageous numbers that you're rambling, and leading you to believe that these things are possible, when in reality, if you look at population, you look at the rate of spread in the other countries, if we're doing so good, how could we be so high and everybody else is now stabilized to a point where their deaths are very, very low and their cases are near 100% recovery, and we're still in chaos. It just doesn't make sense. And it seems that somebody is intentionally trying to make the case that look a lot worse here without even them. They're not very bright because they're not considering the numbers of world statistics and population of other nations, especially the nation of origin in China. Okay, and how the case numbers there are way, way lower than ours, but yet the population there is like 1.3 billion people. And here it's 337 million people. So, I mean, and then two, not to mention again, pay attention to understand that the cases that we're reporting are happening only in New York and in California and heavily in Washington, state of Washington and state of New Jersey and then the rest of them combined with a small percentage that is adding out to the final numbers. But the funny thing, like I say, as well, I have my theories about who may be spreading this. But, that goes into the realm of possible conspiracy theories, and I don't want to do that with this video. I want to stay on point to, you're talking about millions, Mr. President. and it's just statistically by the numbers, what you're quoting, what you're saying. I see you looking to the side. I see you asking them. And I got to say, I think you're being misled, because statistically, by the numbers, it's not possible. It's just not possible. Okay, and then two, what you're saying about how good we've done and how we've got it so much under control, but yet, in truth, our numbers are ranking higher than anybody in the world right now. We have more cases happening right now than anybody in the world right now. We have more deaths occurring than anybody in the world right now, and everybody else in the world is declining rapidly. Some cases in some nations, the rate of reported cases and reported recoveries are near 100%, with very minimal deaths occurring. To include China, to include places like Sweden. Okay, Sweden didn't even shut down, didn't do any precautions, left their things open, let everybody come and go as they were. They actually have better statistics than we have right now in Sweden. But yet you're saying that all the precautions we did and everything has greatly reduced our risk and greatly lowered our numbers. Well, there's a nation didn't do anything, and their numbers are nowhere near our numbers. Okay, and these are the things I'm saying. It just doesn't make sense. Something is wrong. Something is greatly, greatly wrong here. And the thing I have to say is, when we're looking at the things of this guy here in this video, and what he's saying about Fauci, the guy who is your expert who's advising you, how he was involved back in 2014 with causing this thing, with experiments where he violated and broke the law, working with a virus that could harm the public under rules that he broke in our country that weren't allowed. And he worked with Obama, funding China with taxpayers' dollars from America to continue the understudy of this virus and expanding it into, mutating it into a virus of what he believes right now is Covid-19 that we're suffering from right here, right this day. And he also mentions about, which is a God's honest truth, the video exists and you can see it, where this fellow who is the expert advising you stated that this administration would, in fact, he said it very confidently, face a pandemic of some sort within its term of this administration. Now, he stated that several years ago, confidently. How did he know? The same thing like this guy saying, how did he know? He knew because he was involved in the 2014 development for this virus. He was involved with Obama and him working together to get around the laws of our country that would have prevented this from happening, and sending taxpayers' money over to China for them to continue the experimental work with this, which we know as well involves Saudi Arabia and Iran. Okay, also helped funding with this in China for this virus. They've been working on that. We know from like SARS and other viruses that breakouts, they've been experimenting with this since 2011, trying to come up with a virus weapon for war or to attack the world. I mean, this is self-evident. Anybody who's done their research on this, I'm a layman, I get it, but I'm not stupid. I can do the research and see it. But the whole point it comes back to, Mr. President, is it's clear to anybody who is outside the realm, looking at things on the outside, listening to experts on the outside, looking at statistics of the world, looking at populations of the world, nations around us, and looking at what is their now reported cases, their recovery cases, and their death cases. As I said, when you look at these cases here with the world populations, like in India, you got in India 20,471 confirmed cases. They have recovered 3,960 and 652 deaths. Now, India's population is way greater than that of America. And they're right on the cliff, the cuff here of China, right down there, right by where China, I mean, they're a lot closer to us, and it should be spreading there worse. When you look even at China itself, too, if we were to look at China, and I mean, that this is what I'm saying. It just doesn't make sense. If we were to look at China, okay, China has 84,287 cases. They have recovered 77,000, near 100% recovery, with 4,642 deaths. The United States, us, we have confirmed 840,625 cases. Okay, we have 76,000 5,864 recoveries, and 46,000, almost 47,000 deaths? Are you kidding me? On the statistics of the numbers to population ratio and the rate of what we look at for the rest of the world and the spread ratio of this, okay, of what you're saying, we took such great precautions of what other nations haven't, and yet these other nations who haven't even taken half the precautions we have taken don't even have anywhere near the effects of what we're having. So either these numbers are being super greatly exaggerated, which it appears they are, or really we have a major pandemic that you're not even aware of because you think it's good. And if these numbers are correct, we're doing worse than anybody in the freaking world right now. And it just doesn't make sense. So you gotta step out the box. You gotta take a listen to some of these things. And also, I would like to mention here, we're gonna look at this. Now, you mentioned about that hospital in your neighborhood where you grew up. This is the video I seen in prior about several weeks ago. You talked about seeing that news clip with the refrigerator trucks in the hospital at Amherst where you grew up and how devastating that was to you. Well, let me tell you something in truth. There's a woman in California did some looking into this and found out that it appears, I'm not 100% sure, but she seemed pretty convincing, and she gave some pretty good information on the person who did the video for that news clip. And that person is what you call a crisis reenactment expert. Okay, and it appears that might have been a crisis reenactment drill for the hospital at the time they were doing the video shoot. And that's what it's appearing at. I know from sources I've spoken to in relation to the refrigerator trucks, just so you're aware, and this is something you can look into, it would be out of the ordinary to go to Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, heavy populated areas, and not find a refrigerated morgue truck there, from what I'm understanding. Because of the high rate of deaths they have in these hospitals, as cases from what I'm being told from people who work and are familiar with the coroner's office in these major cities, and mind you, I'm from New Jersey. I grew up shining shoes in New York. I'm familiar with the area. I do know people up that way. And from what I'm understanding, is that it would be uncommon to not spot a refrigerator truck outside these major hospitals because there's such a high rate of death in these hospitals. And what happens is once the bodies are processed through the coroner there at the hospital, they're put out into these refrigerator trucks to be distributed out to the funeral homes or for pickup from the funeral homes. If you notice that some of these, they had video where they showed the funeral homes coming with the hearses behind these trucks picking up the bodies. This way here, the hospital inside the morgue, when bodies are processed and ready to go out for services, they're not cluttering up the hospital. They put them out into these trucks. It makes it easier for outside distribution to load them into the hearses and what have you for the funeral homes to take them for the services that are going to be set up for the family viewings and what have you and things like that. So, this is not an uncommon thing in major big cities and for them to have these refrigerator trucks. In fact, I've been told that some of these refrigerator trucks as well will literally reach a certain capacity, and then they will actually have a driver who takes them around and the bodies are dropped at the locations of the mortuaries or the funeral homes that are going to be doing the services for them. So, and this is a common practice that goes on all the time. From what I'm hearing, that even before this happened, you would be able to see refrigerated trucks in Manhattan and Brooklyn and Bronx major hospitals because that's why they're there. They're always there, is from what I'm understanding. So, and then two, to mind you, the day after, this is April 29th, which is only about a little more than several weeks ago, around the time of when the events, of what you keep bringing up about how bad it was at Amherst Hospital, this is the day after when all these things were going on, and this woman did that video, and this is somebody who went live out there to want to see, exactly what is going on at that hospital, and is it as bad as what the news is reporting. So let's see what this guy says.
According to the media, this is the epicenter of the apocalypse, but it sure looks like a ghost town to me. Where's the ambulances? Where's the Russian patients? We heard 13 people died. By the way, the date is March 29th. They just had all the news stories about how they have no ventilators. They're rushing people into the hospital. But you can see it's all a facade. I'm not saying some people might not be sick, but this is way overblown. And you can see with your own eyes, this is real investigative journalism. not the bullshit you see on TV. Elmhurst Hospital, the center of the coronavirus outbreak, and it looks like a ghost town. I'm going to walk around just to see.
This is April 29th, Mr. President.
No ambulances.
This is the place you were concerned about.
No
that
Russian
was,
patients.
you know, you seemed so horrible
No
to you in the
nothing.
news that they showed you that news clip that was made by that crisis reenactment lady. She is a crisis
Total scam.
reenactment expert who did that news clip. So I would question that greatly. This is Amherst Hospital in your neighborhood,
This is the whole
right around the
hospital.
time of when it was supposed to be out of
Walking
control,
around to the other
and you're
side.
talking about the refrigerated trucks and and the bodies and what have you. This is what it looked like. Just the day after and the next day. There, none of that is true. You're being
The
lied
stage
to.
show, if you look at the news video, if you type in Elmhurst Hospital on YouTube, you see the stage show. This is the real scene. Nothing. Not a peep. Hey, sir, why don't you admit this is all a scam? Don't you want to get tested? I don't see that.
I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, trying to get it
Now,
where
here's the tent thing I'm set up. This is what you saw in the news. Where's the line to the tent? Nobody's here on the tent.
So you can see there's nobody. It was the props. These are all
You know, for all the people who say, oh, I know somebody who got it. Yeah, maybe some old people. But this is planned out for an agenda. Research event 201. Look at the Gematria Effect YouTube channel.
So just saying, Mr. President, these videos were shot April 28th and 29th, or March 28th, 29th, right before April, around the time of when they were telling you that this was as bad as what it was with refrigerator trucks and what have you. I'll post links to all these things for everybody to see underneath, and you can find them too on my Facebook page. They've been there for weeks since they came out, and I've been following this. But all I'm saying, Mr. President, is in truth, you have to realize you're stating millions of people could have died. And we right now have the highest rate going percentage-wise. We're at a percentage above anybody in the world right now for cases emerging and deaths that are occurring. And yet we supposedly are in great recovery, according to you. I think you need to go outside the circle of experts who are advising you and giving you, because I keep seeing you looking over, so I know you're going by what they're telling you, and it doesn't appear that you're paying any attention to anything outside that circle. And it appears you need to be paying attention, because the people around you may be a part of this, and part of the very cause of this. When you consider the facts of what this man here is saying in relation to what he believes took place.
The exact words, you guys have the video footage. My point is that when somebody starts making these type of statements, and then they were involved with the breaking of the law to fund the research that American taxpayers pay for, that then go to Wuhan and now trying to create this diversion and say that it's China. God, I don't know whether it came from China or released in China, whether it was already released here. It's irrelevant. The complicity of what's going on right now, whether it was released in China or whether it was already here or however it happened, the U.S. system has condoned it, has jumped on it. They're opportunistic. They're shutting down the economy when they know, in fact, that there's no basis. I mean, there's no virus that leaves 6 feet or 12 feet. Now they're saying 13 feet. Complete misinformation. And I'm sorry that you've pulled the chain on me right now, but the mainstream media, when the Surgeon General came out and said that basically the Gates model, the Fauci model, the World Health Organization model was not going to be followed anymore, and they were going to look at the actual data, the actual number. The mainstream media didn't respond at all. All they said was, it seems like we're going to be going to 2022 before people can assemble together. That's what ABC put out. And Fox, or was it New York Post put out, it seems like that the 6 feet of social distancing is not going to be sufficient. It needs to go to 13 feet. There is no virus, bacteria that jumps 13 feet. It's just, it defies every logical aspect of science and medicine. And what really, really pisses me off is that there are thousands, tens of thousands of doctors and scientists out there that know that this is a fraud, and they're not saying anything. Either one, they're scared of social ostracization because they're going to be called out, or social shaming, or they're afraid of that they're going to lose their license. For God's sake, this is changing the planet, and every scientist and every doctor that knows this to be a facade needs to open their mouth and speak. There is every aspect of science has just been literally picked up, thrown in the toilet, and flushed down. It's like everybody's ignoring it. The fundamental aspects of how the human system works is being ignored.
Well, with all that said, like I say, Mr. President, I'm playing this clip because I want you to understand. I've had this clip for a while. This guy has been saying this for a while. There's other experts and doctors out there who are as well coming forward since he has spoken out. They're world-renowned. This guy is very world-renowned. I mean, I looked into him. He's incredible credentials. I know you like credentials. You like the paper brain Wizard of Oz people who go to these colleges and get their paper brains with high credentials. This guy has a lot of wizard paper you can look into. And, like I said, with Fauci, he's talking about things with him. That's the guy advising you. This guy is one of several or 8 people that I've heard questioning your so-called experts around you. So I'm just saying, when you look at the numbers, Mr. President, that you're talking, and you consider the facts of the population of the United States and the population of the country of so-called origin, China, and then you look at countries like India, and you look at places like Pakistan, you look at places even like Iran, you look at places like Africa, okay, populations like in Africa, none of them have the numbers as bad as what we have in reported cases and deaths. And the other thing is, 80% of our nation is not the majority of these cases and deaths. These cases and deaths are only happening within a 4-region area, 4 different states: New York, New Jersey, partial Georgia, Florida, and California and Texas. Okay, so like 4 or 5 states make up the whole mass of all this outrageous numbers, of which I don't believe these numbers are real. If they were, we would really be in trouble, because it would make us the worst situation in all the world of every other nation, because everybody else is doing way better than us by these numbers anyway. And I think you need to take a serious look and consider these things, because if you're not going outside that circle and you're not consulting with experts outside that circle, and that circle, and I'm sorry, Fauci and these guys are old administration. They're definitely left-leaning Democrats. If you don't think, and I'm sorry, I know myself and the majority of most of the people I speak to all believe 100% that these people would intentionally do this to destroy this nation, just to harm you and to stop the legacy of what you were building with this economy. And then also, too, when you understand, Mr. President, that the people involved in this involve China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, which is the Islamic State areas, they're allied with the Democrats. Okay, these people are a long-standing allied. We can see that by the evolving here in this country with the Muslims into their party, and their support of that Islamic totalitarian regime. They're very supporting of it, and it's like we got to wake up to reality here and face the truth. I mean, you see how desperate these people were to harm you over the last 3 years. And a lot of people right now, and we're realizing too, when we're looking at world statistics, if you look at China, Australia, India, and you look at the recovery rates, and you look at the small marginal deaths that's happening, and you really don't, and you look even here at the people who had it and are saying, it really wasn't that bad. And then you look at the actual cases that we do know of people who it's claimed died from this. Majority of them are in nursing homes who already had prior and existing conditions, that had they even caught the common cold or the flu or pneumonia, all of any other alternative add-on to what they were suffering from would have killed them as well. But everything's being labeled Covid-19, and there must be some kind of funding tie to these hospitals, some kind of money flow to these hospitals, some kind of thing in that package where there's big money for cases, because I think they're greatly over-exaggerating these cases. It's evident they're over. The numbers just can't be possible. When you look at the population of the United States, you look at the population of the world, you look at the spread around the world, especially in the nation of origin, China, and you look at places like India, like I say, it's just not possible, Mr. President. It's just not possible. It's illogical to even assume that we could have such high rate of death in cases with our population compared to other nations, of which, according to you and everyone else, we're doing the best of everything to slow the spread. And when you have a place like Sweden did nothing, okay? Sweden did nothing at all. And they're better off than us by the numbers, okay? They did nothing. India doesn't have the capability to do what we did. They have a very vast, incredible population and a massive area of people that, there's no way they could have the sophistication and technology or advancement in keeping the spread down like we have, but yet their numbers are greatly, greatly better than ours. China's numbers are better than ours. Everybody's numbers really, in fact, are better than ours. But you're up here saying we've done the best. And that tells me you're not really looking at world numbers outside of here. And you're not considering what other experts are saying. And I'm just saying, I think you did what you had to do. I think the shutdown in the start was a great thing because we didn't know what we were dealing with. And God forbid if it was really, truly a plague virus that could have killed millions, well, we would have been in trouble had we not shut down. But at this point, I think it's pretty self-evident that this virus is really no more than the common cold. A lot of experts are saying that. I know that from things which I want to look at. This was another video, Mr. President, that I'll leave these links below.
Outside. Suppose he was an MD who understood the coronavirus in detail, and that he held a doctorate in economics that enabled him to understand the economic implications of the virus. That describes my own position right now. I'm about to speak with Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, professor of medicine, and my friend right here at Stanford. Jay, thanks for making the time to join us.
My pleasure, Peter.
This is a special plague time edition of Uncommon Knowledge with Peter
This
Robinson.
video as well,
I'm
Mr.
Peter
President,
Robinson.
will be at the
Jay's in
below.
his
These
office
are other
because he's
experts who
considered
as well do not agree with Fauci, and they do not agree with the numbers that are coming out right now. They haven't agreed with them for several weeks. You can check the links below and watch these videos for a little bit of broadening of your understanding of what's really going on and what the other experts around the world are saying in view of what the experts around you are saying. I think you need to really consider these what's going on. As well, I wanted to, if I can find it here, I just want to find where I had the thing of about the. Oh, here. Where'd it go? Here it is, right here. I want to go and watch this here. This is was about the guy who says the hydrochloroquine only works when used in combination with zinc. I'll leave this link as well below. You can watch the results that this guy has had. He's literally had people come in critical condition and then leave 4 to 6 hours later with no more symptoms after treating them with the hydrochloroquine and zinc mixture. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or if you've heard about that, but I'll have that link too below where you can see that. This is Dr. Anthony Cardello. He's been treating people with the hydrochloroquine that you recommended, and as well a combination of zinc, and he's been having great success with having these people recover to the point of having near zero symptoms and being able to leave and go about recovering from whatever elements they have safely. But and I'll include those as well below. But like I'm saying, Mr. President, I just think you need to consider these alternative sources. I think you need to broaden your own perspective and maybe outside that circle. You're an incredible. I respect you. I voted for you. I'm going to vote for you again. I'm a great supporter of yours. I believe in you 100%. I just know this is an area outside your expertise. But I know you are an incredibly smart man. I know you have, you say follow that gut. I'm telling you, I feel it in my gut. These people are right. And I think if you start looking outside that circle, you're going to find your gut telling you the same as what me and many, many other people, because I'm making this video because I'm speaking with many, many other people, including people along, like I'm an essential, I work, I cover 3 counties, I have doctors that are customers of mine and stuff, I see them and I ask their opinions, and you know what, they're all on board with these other experts. They're not buying it. They're not buying it. And I'm hearing too much of that. We're just people that are in the field and they're familiar with, they're not buying it. And the other, I'm going to leave you with the last thing, too, I mentioned in essentials. It's funny, all this is happening, and supposedly the death rate is so high, and we hear all this stuff, and we are number one, worst case scenario. But the funny thing about it is isolation really the cure? Because let me tell you something, with all the essentials, we're not dying. We're not getting it. We're out and about doing life like normal. I'm out and about in many different homes all week long. Other people who are essentials, people in the hospital, they're in and out in contact. Like you look here, The funny thing about it, they have a case here in Florida where they say that an elderly woman just passed away from COVID-19 at a nursing home. Funny thing though, everybody at the nursing home who works there, no one tested positive for it. No one tested. Supposedly no one there has the virus, but this woman had it. She was in the nursing home. So somebody had to come in and give it to her. She had to get it from somebody. And if she got it from somebody, how can it be everybody in there, nobody's got it? She was the only one who had it. And these people are coming and going all day long. They go there, they work, they leave, they go shopping at Walmart, they go everywhere, they travel around, they go home, they come back there. They're exposed day in and day out to supposedly where this virus was, and nobody's getting it. None of the essentials are getting it anywhere. None of the essentials are dying from this virus. It just doesn't make sense. It's just not making sense. So I'm just saying, common sense wise, you got to use common sense. And I know you got great common sense. So I hope this video finds you. I'm going to post it on your page. Maybe you'll see it, consider it. I'm going to include all the links below for you to review what these other experts are saying, and give it to you so you can take it all in and take a look at it. And because I think right now we're really behind the curve on where we should be in opening up our nation. I think the slow process is not working. I have other videos which I posted on your site. I don't know if you've seen. I think the Ron DeSantis in our state, and as well other governors looking to suspend school out for the rest of the year, is a big mistake. I think right now with the energy crisis we see going on, as well as the crisis with our farmers and produce and retail across this nation, I think what we need to do is suspend summer break. And we need to send the kids back to school and keep school open this year and let them have 1 year without a summer vacation. And that would greatly, because of the busing systems across this nation, taking these kids back and forth to school, would assist with burning up the excess fuel that we have in reserves right now. It would keep the state's transportation systems for busing these kids in school operating and active, which would require the states to fulfill their commodities contracts with ordering all that fuel to keep the busing system running. With lunching in the schools for all these children attending school would as well help the produce of the local and national farmers who would provide a lot of produce and salads and preparation, including the poultry houses and the meat houses and everything, would have to provide that food. That large, massive commodities contracts would be filled for the schools to keep the lunch menus going for these kids. Teachers in travel and parents in travel again with school open again is going to create a big demand for fuel, which again would assist in burning up some of the massive reserves that we have right now, would help the energy sector. I think these are the things we need to be thinking about. I don't think we should shut down school until the remainder of next year. I also think that if we were to suspend summer break and we would have all the kids go back to school and throughout the summer and just cancel summer this year, summer break, they've had enough breaks already this year with all the idiocy that goes on with this government. So really, they really do. They don't need to be home from school anymore. They're not learning anything as it is with all the protests. They're doing more protesting and what have you in school than they are learning. So, I mean, let's send them kids back to school. This would assist the economy. It would assist the energy sector, the produce sector, the poultry sector, all the food commodity sectors, farmers and what have you. That would greatly assist with them. I think as well it would alleviate the stress off of a lot of parents. If we open up the nation full wing, these parents would be able to get back to work with school, the kids attending school. They're less stressful about what's going on with their kids and who's watching them. They know where the kids are at in school. They could focus back at getting back into their normal routine at work. It alleviates a lot of stress. I just, this is something I think you should consider. I think the governor should consider, and realistically, I'm saying this on the basis of what I'm hearing from experts around the world, and what I'm seeing in recovery rates around the world, and what I'm seeing in realistic numbers when we look at other nations that are clearly reporting accurate numbers without inflating them, because there's no benefit for them to inflate them, like for some reason there is here in the States. These medical directors at these hospitals are greatly inflating the numbers for some reason. I think it's somewhere tied to that package you put out, that $1 or $2.4 billion or something in there that they get money for by higher rates of COVID-19 cases and COVID-19 deaths. Obviously, there's something motivating in this in greed. Maybe you want to enter an executive order that if anyone's caught inflating these numbers, they will serve like 25 years to life in prison. Something like that dramatic, and we'll see how quick the corruption with that ends if we were to have an executive order to that extreme that would say if we are caught inflating or lying about these numbers, is where if a test is done and found out that somebody you claimed had COVID-19 and they didn't, or multiple cases, you're going to face 25 years to life in prison for the damage that you caused to this nation and millions of people, millions of businesses. It's rightfully so. 25 years to life, I think, is fair enough that any demented, disgusting person who would do such a thing should be in prison for life. But anyway, that's something for you to consider as well. But that's all I want to say on this video. I hope you get to see this. I hope you consider it, and I hope we hear something of a response from you in relation to it. But like I say, I'll include all the links below for everyone to see, and including you. I hope, Mr. President, you get to see this, and I'm going to post it on your page, and hopefully you'll see it and consider it. Have a great day, everybody, and talk to you soon.